alile womo onu mo ne ka kalu ewuchi me aha mada togogo aha ogwasa na me fresh na me sora fi no me aya aha mada togogo aha akiko ka mo ti abia aha anyị si Lagos wana wepụta na Bini polisi kwụsị anyị kwụsị fa wee gbọọ m wee bịa asị m kedụ ife na-alụ sena nnetili Igbo bụ Igbo egwu ana m achọkwa n'okwu brọda ana m atụkwa n'ọrụ brọda asị m mepelụ ya fonu m na mụ na-atụlili ọrụ brọda mmepelụ ya fonu m ọdalụ meseji gụba wee gụsịzi anya wee bịa tụkwa m kedụ ife na-alụ sena nnetili Igbo bụ Igbo egwu nji elu ife brọda ego nji elu ego brọda ọmọchide fonu m kalịsị m wee kpọnya brọda wee kpọnya ọga yụjụrụ m kedụ ife na-arụ nkọwalụ gị majụ aga m anwụbazi brọda nwanne nyesịrị m fonu m ka mụ awọlụ na-ada brọda dọna baji ife ka m na-alụ ebe na-ekwu okwu onye polisi amamụla
This is the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra.
Everlasting King of Glory, eternal Rock of Ages, we glorify your name this day for making it possible for your great program to reach your people once more. We glory in your greatness. We bless your holy name for all the goodness you have showered upon your people, the Biafrans. Through the efforts of your children who have come together to make this broadcast a reality, we decree that your blessings shall flow all over the world unto as many that shall listen to this broadcast. At the end, O Lord, your wisdom and your vision shall reverberate in our soul, causing every one of us that have heard this very message and broadcast to go back deeply into the archives of history, to churn out great wisdom and intelligence that will help your people to become free. Thank you, Father, for honoring our request today in the mighty name of Yahweh.
And here is a special announcement from the leadership of Biafra government in exile. This is BCB.
State of insecurity in Biafra land. The need to avoid another genocide. Fellow Biafrans, all peoples of the current southeast Nigeria, Biafra land, southwest Nigeria, Yoruba land, and peoples of the Middle Belt territory. It is with deep concern over our safety and continued existence as a free people, able to exercise our human rights of movement, worship, free speech, and right to life, among other rights bestowed upon us by the Almighty God. Together, we are experiencing unimaginable threats to our way of life, a very present and real threat to our very existence as a people, from Idoma land to TV land, from the people of Chamba, Igala, Ibira, Nupe, Gwari, from Igbo to Goja, Efik, Ishan, Ijo, Ibibio, Ishekiri, Robo, Anyoma, Isoko, up to Bini Kingdom. We face a common enemy who is determined to annihilate us, forcefully use our land as grazing land, and force Islamic religion upon us against our will. These terrorists are purely evil, deadly, and unrepentant. They kill, maim, destroy, and rape our communities with impunity. The worst is that the Nigerian federal government, under General Buhari, is fully in support of these criminals and terrorists. Buhari and his Fulani-dominated government are behind Boko Haram, Fulani herdsmen, bandits, kidnappers, and most recently, the unknown gunmen. President Buhari promised to wipe out Boko Haram in 6 months of his administration. But in 6 years of his administration, Boko Haram have grown and expanded their territory down to Niger State, few kilometers from Abuja, the capital city. In 6 years of Buhari's administration, killer Fulani herdsmen, his own people, carry automatic weapons openly, attack and destroy whole communities in our areas without being confronted, arrested, or made to face the full weight of the law. On the contrary, they are protected by the Nigerian Army, the police, and the Department for State Security, the DSS. Bandits and unknown gunmen are supplied arms and ammunition by the Nigerian Army, the police, and the DSS. These terrorists, especially killer herdsmen and unknown gunmen, operate in broad daylight, killing and burning private and public facilities. Yet, the security agencies have not apprehended any of them. This goes to show that they know who these terrorists are, and they sponsor and equip them to cause mayhem and kill innocent people. Their motive is clear: to instill fear and terror into our people, so we become very weak and vulnerable to their murderous jihadist plan. IPOB is one of the groups agitating for freedom and self-determination in a peaceful manner. Other groups include MASOB, Biafra Zionist Movement, Eastern People's Congress, Biafra Liberation Movement, Organization for Biafra Freedom, Biafra Liberation in Europe, and many others. Recently, IPOB set up a vigilante security unit with the sole purpose of protecting our people from killer herdsmen who destroy our farms, kill and rape our people in their farmlands. They are not unknown gunmen, and they do not kill innocent people. What we cannot do is to give these terrorists, including the Nigerian Army, the Nigerian Police, and the DSS, the opportunity to continue to kill and brutalize us, especially our youth, by labeling them unknown gunmen or ESN. Let us be clear, ESN are not unknown gunmen. The Eastern Security Network set up by IPOB are not unknown gunmen. They have rolled out the full force of their military on Imo State, some parts of Abia State, and other places in Biafra land. The aim is to kill as many youths as they can. At Naze Timber Market near Owerri, we watched in horror as police and army stormed into the market, destroyed cars, molested innocent people, and abducted a number of young people. Some were in the local restaurant waiting to be served their food. They also took away the son of the restaurant owner, a poor woman running her own small business with the help of her son. Their whereabouts is still unknown. There has been many other similar abductions, shootings, and killings of innocent people across Biafra land. And we ask, where are our leaders? Our church leaders, our community leaders, our politicians, and our governors? Where are they in all this situation? I therefore urge all young people to do whatever is necessary to keep out of harm's way. Stay out of trouble. Stay out of the way of these bloodthirsty police and army personnel deployed into our land to kill us. I beg you to be patient. We know what you are passing through, and we feel your pain. The right to self-determination is one nobody can deny us, but we must follow a peaceful, diplomatic, and democratic process. It may take a little longer, but the outcome will mean that we can finally have a nation we can call our own, where we can be free to do our business equitably, fairly, and justly, without any fear of police brutality, discrimination, nepotism, and subjugation. Today I ask you to please stay safe. Do not confront the police or the army. As much as you can, avoid night travels. If you find yourself in public transport, moving from one place to the other, do not engage in any conversation with people you don't know, especially if the subject is on Biafra. Exercise patience and restraint. For the Egyptians you see today, you shall see them no more. Be patient and be of good courage as well. We shall continue to do everything in our power, according to the ability bestowed upon us by the Almighty God, to deliver us out of this darkness into God's marvelous light, into a free nation of opportunity, freedom, justice, equity, competition, and decent living. Biafra government in exile will continue to work with all pro-Biafra groups and the international community to ensure that the will of our people to leave Nigeria and become a separate nation, free and independent nation, is actualized in our time. Thank you, and God bless you, and may God bless our nation, Biafra.
This is BCB Breaking News Bulletin. I am Rose Ama. Warning, this news bulletin contains graphic language. We reported some of the news items in this bulletin in our Biafra Remembrance Day broadcast of May 30th. But now that Nigerian President Buhari has announced his genocidal plot against Biafrans to the world, we repeat these news items in this broadcast to underscore the following. 1. The seriousness of the threat we face from the federal government and its security forces who now occupy our lands. 2. The death of our youth means the annihilation of the next generation and our future. 3. What is happening currently in Biafra land, particularly the ongoing abductions and murders of youth in Imo State, leading to chaos, is part of an orchestrated plot to destabilize our homeland, making it possible for our enemies to occupy us. 4. Turning against ourselves by killing our own people and destroying our own infrastructures as part of an angry protest also further our enemy's agenda. So let's think. Ask ourselves, what do we gain by destroying our own land? 5. We are indeed amid a tragedy unfolding. We cannot ignore this tragedy. And as the Catholic Archbishop of Owerri, Most Reverend Anthony J.V. Obinna said in his press release, quote, Imo is bleeding. We must add also, Biafra is bleeding too. And now, news from Biafra land. Abductions and killings, especially of youth in Biafra. In our May 30th program, we reported that disturbing news has reached us from Abia, Anambra, Enugu, Ebonyi, and Imo states that for several months, members of the Nigerian army and police have been kidnapping innocent civilians who are engaged in daily activities from their homes, markets, businesses, and churches. A video supposedly shot on 23rd of April shows more than 10 military Hilux trucks of security forces who descend on Izombe Uguta in Imo State and abducted several young men whom they loaded into these trucks and drove off. The individual who recorded the event reported that no reason was given for the abduction or where the young men were taken. As we approached May 30th, Biafra Remembrance Day, the threat against Biafran youth escalated. There were several reports of incidents involving Biafran youth abductions by Nigerian police and security officials driving Hilux trucks. The young people were reportedly taken to undisclosed locations. Here are some of the incidents we reported on our May 30th Remembrance Day program. 15th May, Akwakuma Junction. The individual recording the event reported that there were 7 Hilux trucks. The police arrived and seized many young men to fill their trucks, then drove off with them. The youth have not been seen since then. 18th May, Aba, Abia State. Another video tells of soldiers and police arresting 20 young Igbo men. They bundled the youth into Hilux trucks and drove off to unknown locations. These security forces claim that those arrested have dreadlocks and were wearing torn jeans. 19th May, Umonyali, Mberi, Imo State. The military again reportedly abducted youth whom they forced into 3 Hilux trucks. Family members claimed that they did not know where their abducted relatives had been taken and no explanations were provided for the abductions. Various videos and reports, including one from an Owerri radio station shared online, state that policemen and other security personnel are terrorizing civilians, breaking into homes and businesses, destroying cars and properties, beating and stabbing unarmed civilians, shooting at fleeing citizens, and firing shots into the air in complete disregard for human life. The citizens who have experienced these incidents say that there was no provocation for these acts. There is no indication that these policemen were looking for any criminals or that any crimes have been committed in the first place. The citizens also indicate that these security forces seem to be non-Igbo speaking. Eyewitness videos shared on social media platforms such as WhatsApp and YouTube show young people with various degrees of injuries, including machete cuts and gunshot wounds in hospitals or the dead bodies of young people. In one video, we see a long line of young people fleeing through the woods to avoid being killed by security forces. In the audio circulating, one can hear voices describing scenes of violence and chaos. In the background, we hear people shouting as the gunshots ring out in the locations. Biafra Remembrance Day, 30th May 2021. Tensions were high on Sunday, the 30th of May 2021 in southern Nigeria as Biafrans remembered the more than 3 million people who died in the pogrom of 1966 and the Biafran Nigerian War of 1967-1970. The stay-at-home order and Biafra Remembrance Day have become traditions for Eastern Nigeria every 29th to 31st of May since 2014. The indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, and the movement for the actualization of the sovereign state of Biafra, MASOB, which are the leading separatist groups in the country, organized events in remembrance of war victims over those 2 days. The groups issued a strict order to all Biafrans to remain indoors on Monday, May 30th for their own safety. Quote, every person in Biafra land is therefore advised to observe a sit-at-home order on Monday, IPOB spokesman Emma Powerful said in a statement, noting that markets and shops must remain closed on those days. He added, we strongly advise our people against flouting this order as anyone found outside one's house that day may be the target of our enemies, alluding to the ongoing violence from federal security forces. In relation to the Remembrance Day, many pictures and videos shared online in various social media platforms showed deserted roads, streets, and marketplaces. People described the event as complete lockdown. The neighboring states of Abia, Akwa Ibom, Delta, Cross River, Ebonyi, Anambra, and Bayelsa were also on edge, with witnesses reporting that main thoroughfares, streets, and roads were deserted. All establishments, including banks, hospitals, schools, and businesses, were also closed. However, only Nigerian military vehicles could be seen patrolling a few hotspots in Owerri. 2 Christian church leaders in Imo State call for peace and justice in the state. In 2 separate press releases, the Most Reverend Anthony J.V. Obinna, Archbishop of the Catholic Diocese of Owerri, and the Most Reverend David O.C. Onoha, Archbishop of Owerri, Ecclesiastical Province, Anglican Communion, make an urgent plea to the citizens of Imo State to unite in a search for a resolution to the current security crisis in the state. They also call on the governor of Imo State to establish a think tank to address how to resolve the situation. Please listen to the full text of the 2 press releases later in our program. Ahmed Gulak assassinated in Owerri, Imo State. On Sunday, May 30th, the police alleged that 6 gunmen shot dead an influential politician, Ahmed Gulak, in Owerri, Imo State. Gulak, an advisor to former Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan, had been on his way to the airport when he was killed. IPOB has vehemently condemned the killing of Ahmed Gulak, calling it a calculated attempt at demonizing Biafrans. It must be noted that before his death, Gulak had supported Biafrans. He made and posted online videos that openly condemned the shoot-at-sight stance of the IGP and the recklessness of the Buhari government in not negotiating with Nigerian youth and Biafran agitators. Sustained attacks and extrajudicial killings by the combined police, civil defense, and army teams, as well as by armed killer Fulani herdsmen across eastern states of Nigeria. On Sunday, the 30th of May, 2021, While Biafrans were remembering the genocide of 1966 to 1970 and the ongoing military killings sanctioned by Muhammadu Buhari, killer Fulani herdsmen attacked the communities of Tologa, Odoken, Ndiobasi, Oba Kotora in Ebonyi State, killing over 30 people, including women and children. Another 12 people were reportedly massacred by the same killer Fulani herdsmen in the neighboring state of Benue in Ado local government area. The communities attacked in Benue and Ebonyi states are homes to Igbos separated by state boundaries. Uchenna Okpoku, a resident of the area, said the invaders came with guns and machetes. There were graphic videos of bodies hacked to pieces and several survivors with machete wounds being stitched up in a hospital. Confirming the attacks, the Nigerian House of Representatives member representing the affected districts complained about the latent inability of the security forces in halting incessant attacks against indigenous people by invading killer Fulani herdsmen. In Nwori community of Ebonyi State, pictures showed injured women and children lying helpless in a health clinic. They had machete cuts to their heads and all over their bodies and legs. An accompanying video related that several young babies were raped in front of their wounded mothers after their fathers had been killed. An injured mother showed a terrible anal injury in her 1-year-old child. Similarly, suspected Fulani herdsmen attacked Ekpofo in Ehamufu community in Isiuzo local government area of Ebonyi State and slaughtered 4 people, leaving another 7 with serious injuries. At Afenyogugu, Mbise, 5 people were shot and killed by the police and army. A graphic video currently circulating online shows 2 bodies being hurriedly taken in 2 different motorcycles for evacuation to a nearby hospital. Another showed 2 victims with shattered legs, apparently from gunshots. Yet another video showed a victim with gunshots to his stomach being led away for possible treatment. On Saturday, the Nigerian military, responding to the order of the IGP, went to the hostels of Imo State University, IMSU, Owerri, and opened fire, killing about 15 students and abducting many. This concludes this segment of our news bulletin. Coming up, news from Nigeria.
Crying out for peace, yes. None is crying out for justice. Everyone is crying out for peace, yes. None is crying out for justice. I don't want no peace. I need equal rights and justice. I need equal rights and justice. I need equal rights and justice. Got to get it. Equal rights and justice. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Followers of Jesus, everybody wants none of them want to die. I don't want no peace. I need equal rights.
And here is a message from the Catholic Archdiocese of Owerri. It is a press release by His Most Reverend Anthony J.V. Obinna, Archbishop of Owerri, dated 3rd June 2021. Stop the killings. Convoke a ceasefire meeting. Save Imo State. A charge to Governor Hope Uzodinma and to all stakeholders. Last year, exactly about this time, I charged Governor Hope Uzodinma and other Igbo leaders to protect our people and defend our lands. That charge was provoked by threats and acts of invasion on our farmlands by Fulani herdsmen. Now, our very lives are at stake as killings of Imo people are taking place in broad daylight and at night by both officially and unofficially armed men. Imo people are on the run from known and unknown gunmen. There is scare in the air and anxiety on the ground. Imo people are hiding, living in fear. Reports of indiscriminate arrests for no clear reason and killings as a show of power or in alleged retaliation continue to spread. On Wednesday, the 26th of May, 2021, I personally went to the Federal Correctional Center, Owerri, to see the 106 young men arrested from various locations, accused and charged to court jointly for planning to commit, quote unquote, a treasonable felony. They are yet to be released. On Thursday, the 3rd of June, 2021, I visited the Owerri Federal Medical Center mortuary. As I painfully surveyed the 35 corpses stark naked on the bare floor, stealthily dumped there within the last few days, victims of runaway killers, military, police, and unknown gunmen with no identification on them, I thought of many others who have been kidnapped, taken to unknown locations, killed, and even butchered, as we continue to hear. Imo is bleeding. On behalf of the already killed and even more on behalf of the living, now threatened daily with brutal death, I charge Governor Hope Uzodinma as the Chief Security Officer for Imo people to step up and stop the killings by whoever is responsible for them. I equally charge all users and abusers of guns and deadly weapons to stop the killings, to renounce violence, and to denounce any show of pride in killing fellow human beings. I urge the governor to convoke a ceasefire meeting of all Imo stakeholders, no matter their disposition or leaning, for a concerted approach to quench the bloody fire already ravaging Imo people and destroying Imo State. Save Imo people. Save Imo State. Into your hands, O Lord, we commend Imo State. O Mary, Mother of sorrows and Mother of mercy, intercede for your children. Signed, Most Reverend Anthony J.V. Obinna, Archbishop of Owerri. 3rd June 2021. We continue our breaking news bulletin. And now news from Nigeria. Gunmen seized at least 136 students from an Islamic school in Tegina, Niger State. On 30th May, a video showed travelers fleeing bandit attack along Tegina Zugeru Highway in Niger State. According to the owner of an Islamic school, no fewer than 136 students had been abducted from Salihu Tanko Islamic School, Tegina, Niger State, Nigeria, on Sunday, 30th May 2021. Grieving parents are currently pleading with Nigerian authorities to step up efforts to save the students kidnapped by the gunmen. Meanwhile, a Niger State Police spokesperson said that the latest kidnapping was carried out by, quote, armed bandits on board motorcycles in their numbers. The gunmen fired, quote, indiscriminately and abducted a yet-to-be-determined number of children, he said, adding that the gunmen killed one person in the process. Authorities said tactical teams have been mobilized to rescue the students, while a fighter jet was also flying over the area to try to spot the kidnappers and the abductees. While waiting for news about his abducted child outside the school, Mohammed Garba said, quote, we want the authorities to do more. In the interim, Niger State's Deputy Governor Ahmed Mohamed Ketso ruled out any payment to the kidnappers. Since December 2020, gangs of so-called bandits seeking lucrative ransom have kidnapped more than 700 students from boarding schools and other educational facilities across northern Nigeria in several incidents. Sheikh Gumi, an Islamic teacher, has been involved in negotiations and payment of ransom to these criminal gangs. He said that the ransom payments were merited by the bandits since they live in the bushes. On Saturday, May 29, 14 students from a university in northwestern Nigeria were freed after 40 days in captivity. In another related incident, kidnappers freed 29 students abducted in Kaduna State after the parents of the students raised up to 180 million naira in ransom money, which they paid to the bandits. There are reports also that some of the demands of the kidnappers included purchases of dozens of motorcycles for them. We cannot help but question the readiness and commitment of the Nigerian security to curtailing incidents of kidnapping and banditry, especially now that motorcycles have become the bandits' preferred mode of transportation, allowing them quick flight from the scenes of their criminal acts. There is no security in the country, and attackers can seize a lot of people, knowing that negotiating with the government will result in either amnesty or huge ransom paid to them. Ironically, while the bandits and Boko Haram are being pampered by the government, the Nigerian security forces are deployed to eastern Nigeria to kill and terrorize indigenous people who refuse to hand over their lands to bandits and killer Fulani herdsmen. We note that at least $18.34 million have been paid to kidnappers as ransom, mostly by families and the government, between June 2011 and March 2020, according to a report by SB Morgan Intelligence, a Lagos-based political risk analysis firm. Sowore shot and wounded in Abuja. Nigerian police dispersing a crowd of protesters on Monday in the capital city of Abuja shot and injured Sowore. The protest, which was called against the IGP's order to the military to shoot and kill Igbos, was underway with many people present when activist Omoyele Sowore, a well-known opposition figure who has organized previous protests against bad governance, said he was wounded by a police officer. Sowore posted a picture of a wound on Twitter, but the Nigerian police has denied the reports that he was shot. There is, quote, no record of such incident. At this time, police spokeswoman Miriam Yusuf said in a statement. Another activist, however, said he saw Sowore being shot with a tear gas canister live on Facebook. In a Facebook post, we could hear the voice of activist Inibehe Ifyong on the video posted on Twitter saying, quote, Sowore has just been shot by a female police officer. She fired a tear gas canister directly at Sowore. One of his lawyers, Marshal Abubakar, told AFP that Sowore had been rushed to hospital. Quote, I am with him at the hospital theater now, trying to ascertain, but it is a serious injury. a serious wound, a serious penetration, said Abubakar. Amnesty International Nigeria wrote on Twitter that it had received, quote, disturbing reports that activist Omoyele Sowore was shot by the police. Protesters deserve to be listened to, not shot at. We call on Nigerian authorities to investigate the incident and bring perpetrators to justice. Nigerian authorities arrested Sowore on December 31st, 2020, severely beating him, according to another of his lawyers, Femi Falana. The police officers who arrested Sowore, quote, subjected him to severe beating and left him with bruises all over his body, Falana told AFP. Insecurity in Plateau State and genocide of the Irigwe Nation. A total of 40 persons of Irigwe ethnic nationality in Plateau State have been reportedly killed in attacks by killer Fulani herdsmen in the Bassa and Jos North local government areas of the state in the past 4 months. The national president of Irigwe Development Association, Robert Dodo, disclosed this at a press conference in Jos on Tuesday. Dodo also said 20 houses belonging to the natives and over 500 cultivated farmlands worth over 1 billion naira were destroyed during the period under review. Giving a breakdown of the attacks and the names of victims, the national president noted that the killing started at Dudon Mayanga village with the murder of 2 people on February 2nd, 2021. The herdsmen then escalated the attacks to 15 other villages, he added. According to Dodo, despite the series of unabated attacks in Irigwe land, they had received no serious attention from those whose primary responsibility is to secure the lives and property of the people. He lamented, quote, we are pained and have been allowed to mourn and grieve on our own as if we don't have a government. What is happening in Irigwe land is nothing short of genocide and ethnic cleansing, orchestrated by the Fulani to wipe away the entire Irigwe tribe, or, if this seems unachievable, to depopulate their number with the aim of taking over their ancestral land. We are concerned because our people have been confined to internally displaced camps in a continuous brutal show of force by the Fulani militia against the Irigwe people, and nobody has been arrested, investigated, or prosecuted according to the law of the nation. We are worried because, without being apprehended, is government's way of encouraging criminality. Dodo also called on the government to prevail on the Fulani herdsmen to suspend open grazing in their own domain. Gunmen kill Kogi State Commissioner, kidnap LG chairman. Further evidence of the rising insecurity in the country is the attack by yet-to-be-identified bandits who killed a Kogi State Commissioner on Tuesday. The armed gunmen killed a commissioner in the Kogi State Pension Board, Mr. Solomon Akeweje, and abducted the chairman of Yagba West local government, Mr. Pius Kolawole. Spokesman of the State Police Command, DSP William Aya, who confirmed the incident, told the news agency of Nigeria, NAN, that the commissioner and Kolawole were traveling in the same vehicle when they were attacked at about 4:30 p.m. on Saturday, May 1st. The police spokesman said that the victims were attacked at Eruku, a border community between Kwara and Kogi states. According to Aya, both Akeweje and Kolawole were traveling back to Egbe from Kwara State when they were attacked by yet-to-be-identified gunmen. The whereabouts of the abducted Kolawole is unknown at the time of this report, and his abductors are yet to call. The driver of the vehicle survived the attack, but the corpse of Akaweje was deposited at the morgue of Ekwa Hospital, Igbe. This is BCB Breaking News Bulletin. This concludes our news. I am Rose Ama.
Ndewo n'ụmụnna. My name is Ugunnaya Awele, and today I am bringing you a journal work on the Biafran heroes from slavery. The first case. Around the year 1755, in the village of Osaka of Ikuano, meaning 4 Children's clan, one early morning, precisely a few minutes after their parents and other able-bodied men and women of the clan had left to go to the farms. Slave raiders silently entered a compound and discreetly caught and muzzled 2 preteen siblings, a boy and a girl. The raiders had watched the village for 2 days before launching that attack. They know that children were well trained to hide away once the adults leave the homestead, and to send secret calls to their parents once slave raiders were spotted. So these type of attacks were swift and desperate. They started by tiptoeing into one of the major compounds in the enclave almost as soon as the last adult walked around that old ungu tree at the eastern approach to the village. One of the men had selected the compound for a first attack by chance. The boy was walking out with the intention of climbing his favorite tree to hide when he came face to face with the terrible presence of the slave raider at the back exit of his grandfather's compound. He turned and ran back inside the compound, intending to dash into the obi, but the slave raider was faster than him. He caught one of the boy's flailing hands and yanked with force, immediately dislocating the arm at the shoulder and dragging the boy down with him, expertly covering the boy's mouth as he began to scream. The younger girl made it to the far end of the low walls of the fence and vaulted it without problems, but he landed just next to the waiting presence of 2 slave raiders. By the time she completed the first step, she found herself lifted bodily up and was put into the gaping mouth of a jute bag. The bag moved at once as the raiders took off, dragging and half carrying the bag. She was away when the company descended the little depression towards the last year's farming field before she lost consciousness. The raiders ran all day without stopping. Then they halted and took out the girl from the bag. One of the men reset the boy's arm, instantly bringing him relief from the pain he had been nursing ever since that struggle at his grandfather's compound. The 2 children were the only kidnapped victims of that day. The party continued the escape flight soon after a few minutes' rest. By midnight, they had not entered any village, but walked carefully away from homesteads in their nefarious business pattern. They let the 2 children sit down as they finally stopped for a longer rest. The boy shunted closer to his sister and took her weak hands in his, and both began to cry. Olaudah, or just most probably Oledo, was sold and resold more than 6 times before he found himself at the ocean front, bound for that journey of no return. He had lost sight of his sister the very next day following their kidnapping after she was sold, but they had been united for a day within the months before he arrived at that ocean front. Because of his young age, all his masters kept him more as a house pet than as a slave. They used him as companions to their own children. Finally, in London, he was trained as a ship's cabin boy and a sailor. Then his master decided to send him to school. Oledo Ikuano was later to earn his keep and went on to buy his freedom. He wrote many books and campaigned for abolition of slavery. Oledo Ikuano used the teachings of religion to argue for human equality. Economically, he stated that slavery was destroying African society, impoverishing the continent, and destroying the society in its entirety. He used his ability to achieve financial freedom to show that Africans are capable of attaining every level of human success, intellectually, morally, and otherwise. He was able to turn his book into a success when the mainstream British publishing companies refused to publish for him. They sought to stop his story out of discrimination. Iguano, in response, sold his book before publication by the method of subscription to copies. He went around selling a promissory note to deliver his book after publication, and through this method, he raised the money needed to self-publish his book. He followed up the promise through and was a tremendous financial success with his book, much to the dismay of publishing houses of that day. I heard the story of Oledo from a university professor who in the early 1990s was using his work to trace the natural origins of Oledo as being present-day Osaka in Iguano in Biafra land. Oledo, among other abolitionists of his age, was credited with gingering the eventual law that abolished slavery in the world. However, he died before slavery was abolished. Second case. A baby was born to the king of Oke Odan in 1843. There was much rejoicing in the kingdom, for the birth of a child is always seen as a blessing from God to her parents and the community. In this instance, this baby was a special blessing to one of the youngest wives of the king, following a treaty with the neighboring kingdom. The marriage was necessitated by the need to form an alliance and strengthen both kingdoms, because they thought that the Dahomey nation was teetering on the brink of collapse in power and influence. Barely 5 years later, the Dahomey kingdom rallied, invaded, and destroyed Okodan. In the war, the royal family of Okodan was wiped out. The little girl was taken with all other citizens of Okodan as spoils of war. Many of the inhabitants of Okodan were sold into slavery. King Gezo kept the girl. During a meeting with the British envoy to his kingdom, Gezo presented the little girl as a gift to the captain, Frederick E. Forbes. It was recorded that Captain Forbes accepted the gift because he believed the girl would meet worse fate at the hands of her captors, who were then not convinced to end slavery as an economic venture. The captain renamed Aina Omoba as Sarah Forbes Bonita and received her on behalf of the British monarch of that time, Queen Victoria. The Queen later sent Sarah to be educated in a school in Sierra Leone, West Africa, when she was 8 years old, because she believed that the British climate was the cause of a very bad cough Sarah had developed. Sarah returned to England in 1855 when she was 12 years old and became a regular companion to the Queen, who had developed a fondness for her. She appeared regularly with the Queen in public, not as a servant, not as a slave, but as a companion. She was later permitted to marry a wealthy Yoruba businessman, Captain James Pinson Labulo Davis, in 1862, at the age of 19. Sarah Forbes Bonita died at the young age of 37 in 1880. Third case. He was born at Umudroha, Amibo, and named Mbanaso Okwarozurumba. He was the third son of his parents. Igbo ancestral villages survived by maintaining good alliances with their neighbors and by the ability to withstand foreign invasion from enemies. Igbo communities easily go to war against each other over cases like murder, rape, assault committed against a member of a community or a village by a member of another village. Therefore, manpower is jealously guarded. Children are a big resource to the family, and even the practice of polygamy was primarily to raise a large family and ensure the survival by a force of many hands. Therefore, the history that Mbanaso, a third son of the family, was sold by his own family is false. It makes more sense that he was caught and sold into slavery. He was caught and sold into slavery by his father's enemy when he was 12 years old. He served his masters very well and grew up in wisdom and intelligence. He was later sold to Chief Alali, who was the head of Opobo Ani Pebble Royal House. What worked for Jaja was not only his wisdom and his intelligence or his entrepreneurial skills. It was his ability to take risks. He was very brave and determined when he has decided on what to do. Above all, Jaja was immensely compassionate and has a human touch to go with his business sense. When the position of the head of the Ana Pepple house became vacant, therefore, every eligible chief of the house did not want to assume authority because of the debt that was owned by the former head. Jaja knew that if the house was broken up, there would be hardship for all its members. Control of businesses and day-to-day running would become unpredictable. Loss of livelihood and probably a descent to lawlessness may result. So he took up the challenge to be the head of Ana Pepple. However, a few years later, when Jaja had paid out the debts and raised the house through successful business activity, the other chiefs rose up against him. Finally, he left Ana Pepple house and moved away to the nearby Opobo town and established his own house. Jaja organized Opobo into his kingdom and a trading community. Opobo crowned him king. He withstood European forces trying to take complete control of trade in the Delta. He was a fair judge and a good king. He was immensely loved by his people. With growth in economic activity, the kingdom grew tremendously, but the British tricked him onto a warship with the promise of a negotiation, but immediately arrested him and had him deported to West Indies. Later, after a few years of imprisonment, they poisoned him on a fake voyage to bring him home to Opobo. Jaja saw the evils of Christianity as a means of manipulation and so rejected it. But he not only accepted Western education, he built schools and caused his people to be educated. King Jaja was killed because he possessed a rare wisdom and intelligence and would not allow Britain to indoctrinate and colonize his people. We face great decisions of our lives, and which will definitely affect our individual and collective destinies down the generations. It is pertinent that in this age and time that we live in troubled times, that we should be courageous, determined, and brave to stand up to the times and fight for the very right to existence. It is true that we must fight for ourselves. No matter, we must fight for ourselves. No one will fight our battles for us. Yes, many may be kind and offer us assistance, or in the event that those who are charged by the world bodies feel morally and legally justified, they will give us justice. But in the world we live in, through centuries of history, we know that if we do not fight for our very right to existence, we will be annihilated and consigned to the pages of history forever. Thank you for listening. I remain your brother and friend, Ugonnaya Awele.
Yeah, when you go through it, sickle no law. Dreadlock equivalent to having a Glock at all the time. Boogie Jan office, if I lie, I get down. I can get the good dodge, I try to get crime. Well, I can find you look at transaction, I phone. It's a boy, I'll let it go. When you go so, when you go no swim me, and you chant to, when you get a tag, when you get my mother, like my mother, like a petty. When you have a man, when you go laugh for a good idea, you get money. You got to make the money, they will follow you. I like our friend, but you don't know we. That's why I'm going to put money go.
And here is a press release by the Most Reverend Dr. David O.C. Onoha, Archbishop of Owerri Ecclesiastical Province, Anglican Communion, 4th June 2021. It is time to change our strategy. That the people of the Southeast have been unfairly treated by the federal government is not in contention. It is also not in doubt that recent agitations by people of the zone are fueled by their consistent and flagrant marginalization in the Nigerian project. The agitations are further propelled by persistent failure of agents of state to take the expected strong stand against killings and maiming of people in their homes by so-called killer herdsmen. While the underpinnings of the provoked agitations are understandable, I wish to call on those who are agitating to review their strategy and shun all forms of violence so as not to play into the hands of men whose real goal may be to set Igbo land backwards by turning it into a theater of war. The threat to wreak on Igbo land worse havoc than we passed through during the war must not be taken lightly. What we have witnessed in Imo State in the past couple of weeks leaves one no choice but to conclude that that threat of extermination of Igbos by people with access to instruments of coercion is real. The killing of Umibo by unknown gunmen and security operatives has reached such an alarming level that we really need to stop, reflect, and quickly find a way to bring back order. While not in any way absolving those who are guilty of shedding other people's blood for whatever reason, we strongly insist that the indiscriminate arrest and murder of innocent citizens should cease. To this effect, it is necessary for government to note that its strong arm strategy has not been effective. If anything, it is worsening the security situation and creating room for further distrust of its sincerity. The present clamp down strategy is fueling the insinuation of, quote, enslavement, unquote, and making it difficult for elders to convince their younger ones to look unto only God for justice. It is imperative for government, therefore, to take immediate measures to de-escalate the prevailing tension. I passionately call on all well-meaning citizens of Imo State, and indeed Igbo land, to shun partisanship and unite in an urgent search for a solution to this crisis. Our governor needs to rise up now and provide a fatherly leadership that will ensure the return of peace in the state. A patriotic think tank is required at this time for the best way out of this ugly situation. No sacrifice in this direction is too big for our survival as a people. May we be steadfast in prayer for the good Lord to intervene in this situation and deliver us from this trouble. God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in trouble. Signed, Most Reverend Dr. David O.C. Onoha, Archbishop of Owerri Ecclesiastical Province, Anglican Communion, 4th June, 2021. I am continuing a conversation with Brother Osita ABM that where we're contemplating, the complexity of Biafra, its history, where we're going, what constitutes it, how we figure into this very long struggle. And so I want to ask you, currently in Biafra or Igbo land, because you want to focus, you have suggested that perhaps the focus should be on an independent Igbo land. But
Yes.
currently in Igbo land, in Biafra land, as some people would say, no one is safe, either from the Nigerian security forces, the Fulani herdsmen, or some dangerous indigenes of our own region. The violence is escalating daily and threatens to destabilize the region. In fact, the area is almost destabilized. What
Yes.
messages do you have for the citizens, especially the youth who are dying, about their security, and also about safeguarding our people?
Yes, it's really pathetic and very disturbing what is going on in Igbo land today, which is not restricted just to Igbo land. The entire Nigerian country is in flames, and it's unfortunate. And these things could have been avoided, even if people have to separate themselves from each other, which is the right thing to do. It doesn't call for this level of violence and insecurity as it is bedeviling the entire country, Nigeria. So the current scourge of insecurity in Igbo land is surely disturbing. The killings of Igbo people in Igbo land by Nigerian security agents and the Fulani Islamic jihadists can be solved by the youth and elders of the land as well. These two groups working together can get organized and form a more sane and mature common front to pressure our Igbo political leaders and governors to cause them to begin to act in a more effective and proactive ways in solving these problems. It is a fact that these leaders are often dysfunctional and lethargic, mostly because there are no established and organized pressure groups that approach these issues through the long-established Igbo way of doing things. Rather than using the Igbo way to try and solve these problems, some impatient ones among us tend to resort to disrespect and the throwing of insults and abuses on their perceived obstacles indiscriminately. Such security issues are better dealt with more effectively and comprehensively by our political and other more responsible leaders, not through this rash approach. Experience has shown that being confrontational with government forces, even when they are doing the wrong things, encourages them to become more recalcitrant and brutal. On the other hand, most of the security challenges, so what I mean is that we should not be too confrontational with the security forces, the Nigerian security forces, when they are killing and bombing and destroying our place and killing our people. We can still approach the situation diplomatically and win. We don't have to be confrontational because we don't have all the firepower. So that's my opinion on that. On the other hand, most of the security challenges as posed by the elements in the native population are mostly caused by the breakdown of the people's core cultural value. This has contributed to turn the Igbo society into a dog-eat-dog society. I am convinced that the more the Igbo can become self-aware, the more they will become less prone to wanting to hurt each other. There is no sane person who will go out of their way to hurt themselves. That's my opinion about it. This issue of kidnapping, killings, and others that are done by the native people, not because most of these things are done by the killer Fulani people, Islamic jihadists. And then some of the things are attributed to the indigenous or the native people. So the way to solve that of the native ones, because there cannot be a time when there won't be bad people, bad guys in any society. But it won't get to this level if the people, the Igbo people, can become more self-aware. That is, know who they are, correctly identify with who they are and their cultural value. These things will reduce very drastically, I promise you. Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, this is a big promise. In other words, you're telling me that, either the Igbo youth or Igbo people in general, that we are experiencing, or Igbos are experiencing, some form of identity crisis. Is that the case? You talk about a breakdown in, cultural values. Is that really the only the only cause? But what do we say to youth or to people in general who say, well, we are poor? Think about it. This is more than 50 years after the war, and Igbo land or Biafra land is worse than it was even during the war. We produce oil, but the oil, oil is found in our regions. We have resources, but none of that has gone to, help develop infrastructure in our resources, in our regions rather. How do we address the poverty stemming from this very long years of, oppression or domination by, the Nigerian, government? And, in the absence of resources, what can people really do? I'm just simply playing the devil's advocate here.
Yes, talking of the devil.
I'm not the devil, but I'm playing.
Some people will tell you that you are not bad. You don't do bad things because of the devil, and you don't do good things because of God. It is all within us to be good or to be bad.
Mm.
So that we are poor or the people are poor does not, in my opinion, that's not what makes them bad. Poverty, yeah, poverty can lead you to certain things, but not the vicious way through which these people go to achieve the poverty alleviation for themselves. Okay, you are poor, you need money, or you need food, or you need some items. Does it require you killing the person that has that thing you are taking away from him or her? Mm-hmm. So that's it's not poverty. It is the issue of loss of cultural restrictions, cultural restraints. Mm-hmm. Something has to restrain you in life. That is discipline. So it's not all about poverty or all about lack. It is all about what you value. what is restraining you. Yeah, you can do anything, but you are restrained from doing everything.
Yes.
You do only those things that are necessary for your survival and the good of your neighbors, the people around you. You know, you always try to consider before doing something to other people. You have to think, if the situation is reversed and it's done to you, how would you receive it?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think. It is all based on the cultural value of the people. Because if you look around the world, you see there are cases where some societies are almost crime-free. And if you, without any, that is all these places where you have almost zero crime in the societies, it is all because it emanates from their culture and nothing more. That's the truth. The way people, what they value, what restricts them, what makes them, what is driving them. That's what produce crime. So the kind of crime like kidnapping and other forms of crime that is going on in Igbo land and other parts of Nigeria today is not based on the fact that the people are poor or that they lack some basic material things of life. It is all because of the way people have come to value things, the value they put on things, not even material things like as such, but you see, restraint is the thing, and it's culture that can restrain you. Then another thing is law. Law and order, law produces order. Okay, and we within the Igbo land have become very dysfunctional because of we don't control the majority of the decisions or the laws as they are practiced in our society. This contributes to the crime and the insecurity that is going on within our place. Because where a crime is committed and the person who committed the crime is maybe arrested or something, and then an order comes from somewhere outside Igbo land or society to let the person go or release the person. So the people, the local people become powerless, and all because the other person who is giving order for the release of the criminal may be doing it out of good faith. Maybe in their culture, in their way of life, so what this person has done is not wrong. They don't consider it as criminal. But within Igbo land or within Igbo society, such is a criminal offense and should be dealt with appropriately. But the other person giving the order does not see it as a crime. So that's the way it is. That's what I think. So for us, yeah, we need autonomy or independence to be able to control our society, the laws, and other things. But at the same time, we cannot be waiting for that autonomy before we begin to get certain things right, like this issue of viciousness that is coming from outside, because the people, the local people want to imitate. Maybe they had seen something that happened some other lands far away, and it was condoned, and so they want to bring it closer to their local communities and practice the same thing to see how, maybe for the fun of it even. So that's the reason why we need our own independent society or country. Thank you.
You're welcome. This is quite fascinating. So in other words, we have to know ourselves. Igbos, you need to know yourselves. People, you need to know yourselves. The issue of autonomy is not a simple matter. It's very, very complex. And based on what you're saying, you're talking about a lack of agency, but it's also complicated, by what you have said in terms of, abandoning of one's values. So, for us to continue this, it will probably take us another day or even weeks. And I hope that you come back and we, continue this conversation, because it is very, very fascinating. What do we say to this generation of young people who, in the absence of role models? I look at those governors, and it's not just simply in the Igbo states, but across the nation, who are irresponsible. I look at the general population that seems to lack agency and seems to lack the willpower to demand accountability from, their leaders. I look at a state like Imo State, where a governor who was clearly elected by the citizenry was removed, and one who had no place there was replaced. So what then happens when the kind of leadership that people have right now is one in which they have no agency in selecting? Of course, you model the leadership too. They're looking at them saying, well, there is no accountability. Nobody's holding them accountable. They're raiding the coffers of the states. Why can't we just do the same thing? And these are complex matters, right? So my people, yes, these are issues that we hope you'll continue to contemplate, to think about, and hopefully figure out how we find our ways or our paths back to our core values, to our core selves, and back to freedom for ourselves. I thank you for coming and for this conversation, my brother Osita ABM. And, as I said, I invite you back, hopefully in the future. This is Rosama, and this is BCB. Thank you for listening to us.
We are bringing you a message from the Organization for Biafran Freedom, OFBF. The Organization for Biafran Freedom will hold a World Press Conference in Washington, D.C., United States of America. Date is June 28, 2021. And the time is between 12 p.m. and 5 p.m. The venue will be the National Press Club, and global leaders are expected to participate in the activities of the day. There will be also featuring performers, guests, and different cultural showcases. Our message to the world. It is now obvious that Nigeria is in a state of anarchy and getting worse by the day. If urgent steps are not taken to address the lawless situation in Nigeria, members of the international community will soon be burdened with massive humanitarian crisis and the horror of a free-for-all killings and mass burials. Right now, the security situation in Nigeria is dire. Many innocent citizens are being slaughtered needlessly, in the full glare of the government of President Muhammadu Buhari, the president has remained unconcerned and is evidently colluding with the terrorist groups, such as the Fulani herdsmen from his ethnic group and the jihadist Islamic terrorists Boko Haram that have been killing Christians and destroying their places of worship for many years now. Although some would like to think that President Buhari is simply incompetent in handling the affairs of a complex and diverse country like Nigeria, but many believe he is deliberately doing nothing, thus allowing the consolidation of power in the hands of his native Fulanis to hasten the actualization of their dreams of Fulanization and Islamization of Nigeria. The Fulani herdsmen, armed with dangerous military-style weapons like AK-47, AR-15s, and similar arsenals are roaming the streets, countrysides, and forests throughout the country, killing, maiming, and burning down houses belonging to Christians and other ethnic groups, unchallenged and with no consequences. The terrorists are attacking peaceful and unarmed indigenous communities, while the security agents controlled by the central government of Nigeria allow them to have a field day, ravaging and destroying non-Fulani and non-Muslim communities in Nigeria, especially in the eastern region. Evidently, these killings in the hand of these herdsmen are done with the collusion of President Buhari's central government, as they are neither confronted nor arrested. The Nigerian government is obviously a partner in these senseless killings, as they have willingly incorporated terrorist elements into the army, knowingly. These terrorist elements are ruthless when given the order to shoot aside. They are efficiently carrying out their bloody mission of genocide in designated places. For instance, on 1st June 2021, Mr. Oguchi Onachukwu was shot dead in Owerri by Nigerian military for no reason, while on his way to the airport to return to his base in Germany. Just as many others were killed in Ebonyi State on the same day. These killings are consistent with the Nigerian Inspector of Police, Usman Akali Baba's order to the security forces to shoot young Igbo boys at sight. This shoot-aside order has motivated these trigger-hungry terrorists dressed in security uniforms to kill without compunction in the eastern Christian-dominated Nigeria. This ongoing genocide of Eastern Nigerian Christians is fast turning into the worst human disaster ever since the Jewish Holocaust. Military bases in Obinze and Onitsha cantonment have shallow graves where the victims of extrajudicial killings are buried. Concentration camps and torture chambers are in many military bases, particularly in northern Nigeria, where youths abducted from Igbo land are transported and tortured to death. In his shoot-on-sight order of May 18, 2021 to the security forces, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, was happy to say that, quote, "If anyone accuses you of human rights violation, the report will come to my table, and you know what I will do. So, take the battle to them, wherever they are, and kill them all. Don't wait for another order," unquote. In addition to the Fulani herdsmen, there are other terrorist groups killing people in Nigeria, and many others gathering from the radical Islamic world into Nigeria at the invitation of the government of the day, reducing the country into a theater of blood. We are aware of these terrorist groups, including, but not limited to, ISIS, Islamic State of West Africa, Boko Haram, and Mieti Allah, with President Buhari as their patron. These groups are now part of the army and police and are mercilessly abducting, kidnapping, raping, and destroying lives and properties unabated. This is true because the government itself had acknowledged on many occasions of forgiving terrorists and recruiting them into the country's military and police. The most excruciating aspect of it all is the killing of young Christian Igbo boys who are being abducted, tortured, killed, and buried in shallow graves in many town centers and on daily basis. None of these boys ever come back alive. The sight of police and army is now a serious source of panic for the Southeasterners who are being killed in their numbers. Soldiers and police cause stampedes in marketplaces and churches, resulting to multiple injuries. The soldiers and police shoot without reservations, killing innocent and unarmed civilians without provocation. Those who are not killed with gunshots to their backs are taken away to the government torture chambers for summary treatment. Eyewitnesses are describing government concentration camps where torture, organ harvest, and all sorts of dehumanizing and atrocities are going on in total disregard for the dignity of our people. These security challenges have forced so many ethnic groups to re-establish a vigilante or militia groups to protect themselves from the ravaging insecurity besetting the land. Unfortunately, the marauding military might of the federal government easily overpowers them, thus using their self-defense as excuses to kill and burn an entire village. This has obviously worsened the security challenges and has reduced Nigeria to a place where so many armed militia groups, deeply divided and suspicious of each other, are. The country is now sitting on kegs of gunpowder, some of which have already exploded, killing thousands. The situation is deteriorating into unprecedented humanitarian crisis that is likely to engulf the entire West African region. Furthermore, the masses who would form the bulk of the refugees are in danger of being consumed by this fragile security situation in Nigeria, unless something is done, and is done urgently. This conference is seeking to find out why the world is silent to allow another Somalia, another Rwanda and Kosovo genocide to play out in Nigeria. We are appealing to the international community to take a preemptive stand now before it is too late, and to save any lives, all our lives. We urge the world to fulfill her obligation and stop this humanitarian crisis. As we wait, many are pleading for their lives. Many are awaiting execution. Some are undergoing unspeakable human torture. Some are being burnt alive. Some are tied and thrown into hot ovens and furnaces. Young girls are being raped, gang raped. Loss of lives estimated at 10,000 occur daily. But life goes on in Britain and United States of America as though nothing is happening in Nigeria. The CNN and BBC run their regular programs, ignoring the ensuing genocide in Nigeria, and the world keeps silent. We call on good people of the world, the governments of the United States of America, the European Union, the United Nations, and the entire world to end the ongoing genocide in Igbo land. It is unfortunate that the world is standing by again and watching more millions of Igbo Biafrans suffer a second genocide in a half century in the hands of Fulani Islamists dominated Nigerian government. Our common humanity forbids this, our common humanity forbids this evil and ongoing crime against humanity. May God help the Igbos. This document is signed by Dr. Lawrence Oson, the chairman of the OFBF, Engineer Nze Osuagwu, Secretary of the OFBF, and Chief Eddie Nwosu, the Chairman of the OFBF Coordinating Committee. Thank you.
This is the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra. Thank you for listening to us today. Join us next time for news, cultural, and educational programs. This is the Broadcasting Corporation of Biafra, BCB.
And justice, I got to get it, equal rights. And justice, I really need it, equal rights. And justice, just give me my share, equal rights. And justice, what is due to Caesar? You better give it on to Caesar. Hey, hey, hey. And what belongs to I and I, you better give it up to I. 'Cause I don't want no peace. I need equal rights and justice. I need equal rights and justice. I've got to get it, equal rights and justice. I'm fighting for it, equal rights and justice. Everyone heading for the top, but tell me how far is it from the bottom? Nobody knows, but everybody fighting to reach the top. How far is it from the bottom? I don't want no peace. I want equal rights and justice. I need equal rights and justice. I've got to get equal rights and justice. I really need it, equal rights and justice. Everyone is talking about crime. Tell me, who are the criminals? I said everybody's talking about crime. Tell me, who are the criminals? I really don't see them. I don't want no peace. I need equal rights and justice. We got to get equal rights and justice. And there be no crime, equal rights and justice. There be no criminals, equal rights and justice. Everyone is fighting for equal rights and justice. Palestinians fighting for equal rights and justice. Down in Angola, equal rights and justice. Down in Botswana, equal rights and justice. Down in Zimbabwe, equal rights and justice. Down in Rhodesia, equal rights and justice.
Hail to Biafra, concept shall our trumpets peal the glorious song of victory. We score, oh my rock. Oh God, protect us from the heathen pitfall. Guide all our movements, lest we go astray. Give us the strength to